Hello, good morning, everybody. This is the IELTS Academic English, Cambridge IELTS 14, which is the latest. All right. So I'm gonna start playing the IELTS 14 section 1, test 1. So as you have already known, section 1, there will be two speakers and they're gonna be exchanging the information and you will get an example. So when they talked about the example, you shouldn't waste your time and you should pre-read the questions. All right. So now let me play the audio and start the recording. Okay. So here.
IELTS 14, Tests 1 to 4. Published by Cambridge University Press and UCLES 2019. This recording is copyright. Test 1. You will hear a number of different recordings and you will have to answer questions on what you hear. There will be time for you to read the instructions and questions, and you will have a chance to check your work. All the recordings will be played once only. The test is in 4 sections. At the end of the test, you will be given 10 minutes to transfer your answers to an answer sheet. Now turn to section 1. Section 1. You will hear a woman reporting a theft to an officer in a police station. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 3.
All right, don't forget, the instruction clearly states that you can write just one word and or a number. So if you write more than one words, then probably you won't get the mark, okay? There will be a conversation between a woman and a police officer, and examples will be repeated. So you will hear the answer Taylor twice, all right? And the nationality, so where's she from? So maybe probably she's gonna say she's British, she's Singaporean, she is maybe probably a European or whatever. And reasons for visit: business, to buy antique what? Just one word, antique what? It has to be a noun. And the current address, blank apartment. So it's got to be the name of the apartment, no more than one word. Okay, so let's listen out for it.
You will see that there is an example that has been done for you. On this occasion only, the conversation relating to this will be played first.
Good morning. What can I do for you?
I want to report a theft. I had some things stolen out of my bag yesterday.
I'm sorry to hear that. Right, so I'll need to take a few details. Can I start with your name?
Louise Taylor.
The woman's name is Louise Taylor. So Taylor has been written in the space. Now we shall begin. You should answer the questions as you listen, because you will not hear the recording a second time. Listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 3.
Good morning. What can I do for you?
I want to report a theft. I had some things stolen out of my bag yesterday.
I'm sorry to hear that. Right, so I'll need to take a few details. Can I start with your name?
Louise Taylor.
Okay, thank you. And are you resident in the UK?
No, I'm actually Canadian, though my mother was British.
And your date of birth?
December 14th, 1977.
So you're just visiting this country?
That's right. I come over most summers on business. I'm an interior designer, and I come over to buy old furniture. Antiques, you know? There are some really lovely things around here, but you need to get out to the small towns. I've had a really good trip this year, until this happened.
Okay. So you've been here quite a while?
Yes, I'm here for 2 months. I go back next week.
So, may I ask where you're staying now?
Well, at present, I've got a place at Park Apartments that's on King Street. I was staying at the Riverside Apartments on the same street, but the apartment there was only available for 6 weeks, so I had to find another one.
Okay. And the apartment number?
15.
Right.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 4 to 10.
All right, let's have a look at question 4 to 10. All right, so she's gonna say the details of the theft. How did she get this thing stolen? So item stolen is a wallet containing approximately, so it's a pound sign, so it has to be a number. So okay, how much money has you got stolen? And something else. So it has to be a noun. The date of the theft, so it's got to be a date. All right. So she's gonna continue talking about the possible time and place where she got these things stolen. So location outside the blank. So outside the cafe, outside the hotel is the place at about 4 p.m. All right. Detail of suspense. So some boys asked for the. So what did they ask her? All right. Then ran off and won. One boy had a T-shirt with a picture of a tiger. He was about 12, only 12 years old, slim built with a black hair. So it's a hair color. It's got to be like reddish, blonde, black, silvery. So it's got to be a hair color. And the crime reference number allocated. So it's got to be a number, or probably like it might include like some English letters, but most likely a letter. All right. So let's listen out for it. Are you ready? Let's go.
Now listen and answer questions 4 to 10.
Now, I need to take some details of the theft. So, you said you had some things stolen out of your bag?
That's right.
And were you actually carrying the bag when the theft took place?
Yes, I really can't understand it. I had my backpack on, and I went into a supermarket to buy a few things, and when I opened it up, my wallet wasn't there.
And what did your wallet have in it?
Well, fortunately, I don't keep my credit cards in that wallet. I keep them with my passport in an inside compartment in my backpack, but there was quite a bit of cash there. About 250 pounds sterling, I should think. I withdrew 300 pounds from my account yesterday, but I did a bit of shopping, so I must have already spent about 50 pounds of that.
Okay.
At first I thought, oh, I must have left the wallet back in the apartment. But then I realized my phone had gone as well. It was only a week old, and that's when I realized I'd been robbed. Anyway, at least they didn't take the keys to my rental car.
Yes. So, you say the theft occurred yesterday?
Yes.
So that was September the 10th? And do you have any idea at all of where or when the things might possibly have been stolen?
Well, at first I couldn't believe it because the bag had been on my back ever since I left the apartment after lunch. It's just a small backpack, but I generally use it when I'm traveling because it seems safer than a handbag. Anyway, I met up with a friend, and we spent a couple of hours in the museum. But I do remember that as we were leaving there, at about 4 o'clock, a group of young boys ran up to us, and they were really crowding round us, and they were asking us what time it was. Then, all of a sudden, they ran off.
Can you remember anything about them?
The one who did most of the talking was wearing a t-shirt with a picture of something. Let's see. A tiger.
Right. Any idea of how old he might have been?
Around 12 years old?
And can you remember anything else about his appearance?
Not much. He was quite thin.
Color of hair?
I do remember that. He was blonde. All the others were dark-haired.
And any details of the others?
Not really. They came and went so quickly.
Right. So, what I'm going to do now is give you a crime reference number so you can contact your insurance company. So, this is 10 digits. 87954 82361.
Thank you. So, should I contact...
That is the end of section 1. You now have half a minute to check your answers.
All right, you have half a minute before you move on to section 2, and I hope you get all the answers. All right, so let's move on to the section 2, shall we? Let's move on to the section 2. Are you ready? In section 2, it's unlike section 1, you're going to hear only one speaker. And one speaker is going to give information to the listeners. In here, there's like a manager or a supervisor. Yeah, a manager is going to talk about the apprentice or probably like the interns of just some kind of trainees. All right. And you're going to hear question number 11 to 14 first. And after that, there's going to be a short break. And question number 15 to 20 will come later. All right, so now let's have a look at question number 11 to 14 first. All right, question number 11 to 14 is a multiple choice. You're going to have to choose two answers from from the letter A to E. Okay, the question says which two pieces of advice for the first week of an apprentice does the manager give? Okay, get to know the colleagues, learn from any mistakes, or ask lots of questions, react positively to the feedback, or enjoy the new challenges. You've got to choose two answers. How many answers? Just two answers. All right, and you can move it on. You can move it on to question number 13 to 14. Which two things does the manager say mentors? Mentors is like experienced people or people who are like supervising them, can help them. All right, so number A is confidence building. Number B, making career plans. Number C, completing difficult tasks. Number D, making a weekly timetable. And number E, reviewing the progress. And you've got to choose only two of them. How many? Two of them. All right, so now let's start with number 11 to 12, and I'm going to play the audio and get the answers. Where's the audio? Okay, the audio is here. All right, so let's listen out for it.
Section 2. You will hear a manager giving a welcome talk to a group of apprentices who are starting their training at the company. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 14. Now listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 14.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Janet Parker, and I'm the Human Resources Manager. We're very happy to welcome you to your new apprenticeship. I hope that the next 6 months will be a positive and enjoyable experience for you. I'd like to start with some general advice about being an apprentice. Most of you have very little or no experience of working for a big organization, and the first week or so may be quite challenging. There will be a lot of new information to take in, but don't worry too much about trying to remember everything. The important thing is to check with someone if you're not sure what to do. You'll find your supervisor is very approachable and won't mind explaining things or helping you out. You're here to learn, so make the most of that opportunity. You'll be spending time in different departments during your first week, so make an effort to talk to as many people as possible about their work. You'll make some new friends and find out lots of useful information. As well as having a supervisor, you'll each be assigned a mentor. This person will be someone who's recently completed an apprenticeship, and you'll meet with them on a weekly basis. Their role is to provide help and support throughout your apprenticeship. Of course, this doesn't mean they'll actually do any of your work for you. Instead, they'll be asking you about what goals you've achieved so far, as well as helping you to identify any areas for improvement. You can also discuss your more long-term ambitions with them as well.
Before you hear the rest of the talk, you have some time to look at questions 15 to 20.
All right, so let's have a look at 15 to 20 first. 15 to 20, you're going to be matching. All right, this is matching. So let me make it smaller. All right, so you can still see it. All right, so what does the manager say about each of the following aspects of the company policy for the apprentice? You're going to have to write A, B, and C next to the question 15 to 20. All right, so A is it is encouraged. You got to do it. All right. B is there are some restrictions, there's some situation, conditions, something like that. It's not no all the time. It's not yes all the time. And C is definitely against the rule. You should not do it. If you do it, you're going to be a problem. You're going to have a problem. All right. So let's have a look. Let me make it a little bigger. All right. So here, the company policies for the apprentice. Number 15, using internet. Is it encouraged, or there's some restriction, or it's against the rule? Number 16, flexible working. You know flexible working, right? I mean, you come early, go home early, or you come late, you go home late. And booking holidays. You got to book your holidays in advance, making reservation for the holiday, working overtime, and the wearing trainers. It's like, instead of the shoes, you wear trainer. Is it okay or not okay? And finally, bringing food to work. Okay, so if it's encouraged, you say yes. If it's not encouraged, you say if it's encouraged, you say A. If it's not encouraged, you say C. And if it depends, you say B. Okay, so are you ready? Let's listen out for it. Shall we? Okay, I'll play the audio. Let's listen. I hope you get all of them.
Now listen and answer questions 15 to 20.
Now, I just want to run through a few company policies for our apprenticeship scheme with you. Most importantly, the internet. As part of your job, you'll be doing some research online, so obviously you'll have unlimited access for that. But please don't use it for personal use. You'll have your own phones for that. Some of you have already asked me about flexible working. After your probationary 3-month period, some of you will be eligible for this, but it will depend on which department you're in and what your personal circumstances are. so please don't assume you'll automatically be permitted to do this. I want to make sure there's no confusion about our holiday policy. Apart from any statutory public holidays, we ask that you don't book any holidays until after your 6-month apprenticeship has finished. Time off should only be taken if you are unwell. Please speak to your supervisor if this is going to be a problem. You'll be expected to work a 40-hour week, but there may be opportunities to do overtime during busy periods. Although you're not required to do this, it can be a valuable experience, so we advise you to take it up if possible. Obviously, we understand that people do have commitments outside work, so don't worry if there are times when you are unavailable. As you know, we don't have a formal dress code here. You may wear casual clothes as long as they're practical. And the only restriction for shoes we have is on high heels for health and safety reasons. Comfortable shoes like trainers are preferable. There's a heavily subsidised canteen on site where you can get hot meals or salads cheaply. Snacks and drinks are also provided, so we've decided to introduce a no-packed lunch policy. This is partly to encourage healthy eating at work and partly to stop people from eating at their workstation, which is unhygienic. Okay, moving on to...
That is the end of section 2. You now have half a minute to check your answers.
All right, so that's the end of the section 2, and we're going to move on to section 3, where you're going to hear another conversation, which is study-related conversation. All right, so shall we move on to section 2? How was it? Did you get it okay? All right, so let's move it on, shall we? All right, so welcome to section 3. In section 3, there's always conversation between 2 or more speakers. And this time, you're going to hear 2 speakers talking about building cities by the sea. All right, so the first time, you're going to have to listen to question number 21 to 25, and it's multiple choice. So let's pre-read the question very carefully. Number 21, Colin and Rob are surprised to learn that coastal cities, so A, contain nearly half the world population, B, include most of the world's largest city, and C, are growing twice as fast as other cities. All right, you really have to listen out for it, and you really have to avoid the similar sounding one, and you really have to wait until they confirm the answers because they're going to try to confuse you. All right, number 22, according to Rob, building coastal city near cities near the rivers may bring pollution to the cities or may reduce the land available for agriculture or may mean that the countryside is spoiled by the industry. All right, number 23, which mistakes was made when building water drainage channels in Miami in 1950s. All right, there were not enough of them. They were made of unusable materials, and they did not allow for the effects of climate change. 24, what do Rob and Clara think that the authorities in Miami should do immediately, right? Take measures to restore the ecosystems or pay for a new flood prevention systems or stop disposing of waste materials into the ocean. All right, which one was that? And number 25, and what do they agree should be the priority, the most important thing for the international action? Greater coordinations, working together of the activities, or more sharing of information, or agreement on the share policies. All right, so I'm going to play the audio and you try to check the information. All right, so I'll shut down my...
Section 3. You will hear 2 urban planning students, called Carla and Rob, discussing their presentation on cities built by the sea, following instructions from their tutor. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 25. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 25.
Okay, so what I'd like you to do now is to talk to your partner about your presentations on urban planning. You should have done most of the reading now, so I'd like you to share your ideas and talk about the structure of your presentation and what you need to do next.
OK, Rob, I'm glad we chose quite a specific topic, cities built next to the sea. It made it much easier to find relevant information.
Yeah, and cities are growing so quickly. I mean, we know that more than half the world's population lives in cities now.
Yeah, though that's all cities, not just ones on the coast. But most of the biggest cities are actually built by the sea. I'd not realised that before.
Nor me. And what's more, a lot of them are built at places where rivers come out into the sea, but apparently this can be a problem.
Why?
Well, as the city expands, agriculture and industry tend to spread further inland along the rivers, and so agriculture moves even further inland up the river. That's not necessarily a problem, except it means more and more pollutants are discharged into the rivers.
So these are brought downstream to the cities?
Right. Did you read that article about Miami on the east coast of the USA?
No.
Well, apparently back in the 1950s, they built channels to drain away the water in case of flooding.
Sounds sensible.
Yeah, they spent quite a lot of money on them, but what they didn't take into account was global warming. So they built the drainage channels too close to sea level, and now sea levels are rising, they're more or less useless. If there's a lot of rain, the water can't run away. There's nowhere for it to go. The whole design was faulty.
So what are the authorities doing about it now?
I don't know. I did read that they're aiming to stop disposing of wastewater into the ocean over the next 10 years.
But that won't help with flood prevention now, will it?
No, really, they just need to find the money for something to replace the drainage channels in order to protect against flooding now. But in the long term, they need to consider the whole ecosystem.
Right. Really, though, coastal cities can't deal with their problems on their own, can they? I mean, they've got to start acting together at an international level instead of just doing their own thing.
Absolutely. The thing is, everyone knows what the problems are, and environmentalists have a pretty good idea of what we should be doing about them, so they should be able to work together to some extent. But it's going to be a long time before countries come to a decision on what principles they're prepared to abide by.
Yeah, if they ever do.
Before you hear the rest of the discussion, you have some time to look at questions 26 to 30.
All right, how's it going? Let's move on to question 26 to 30, shall we? What do we have here? All right, so it's matching again. All right, so here, which decision do the students make about each of the following part for the presentation? All right, you've got to choose 5 answers to match with the part of the presentation. All right, how can I make it bigger? Okay, forget it. All right, so decisions. All right, so number A, use visual. B, keep it short. C, involve other students. D, check the information is accurate, correct. Okay, and E, provide a handout. F, focus on one example. And G, do online research. So you're gonna choose only 5 of them. All right, so part of the presentation: 26, historical background; 27, geographical factors; 28, past mistakes; 29 future risks, and 30 international implications. So you're going to choose A to G 5 answer to match against the number 26 to 30. Okay, so let's give it a go. Are you ready? Let's go for it. Let me turn off my microphone and play the audio. Are you ready?
Now listen and answer questions 26 to 30.
So, I think we've probably got enough for our presentation. It's only 15 minutes.
Okay, so I suppose we'll begin with some general historical background about why coastal cities were established. But we don't want to spend too long on that. The other students will already know a bit about it. It's all to do with communications and so on.
Yes. We should mention some geographical factors, things like wetlands and river estuaries and coastal erosion and so on. We could have some maps of different cities with these features marked.
On a handout, you mean? Or some slides everyone can see?
Yeah, that'd be better.
It'd be good to go into past mistakes in a bit more detail. Did you read that case study of the problems there were in New Orleans with flooding a few years ago?
Yes, we could use that as the basis for that part of the talk. I don't think the other students will have read it, but they'll remember hearing about the flooding at the time.
Okay. So that's probably enough background.
So then we'll go on to talk about what action's been taken to deal with the problems of coastal cities.
Okay. What else do we need to talk about? Maybe something on future risks, looking more at the long term if populations continue to grow?
Yeah, we'll need to do a bit of work there. I haven't got much information. Have you?
No, we'll need to look at some websites. Shouldn't take too long.
Okay. And I think we should end by talking about international implications. Maybe we could ask people in the audience. We've got people from quite a lot of different places.
That'd be interesting if we have time, yes. So now, shall we go on?
That is the end of section 3. You now have half a minute to check your answers.
All right, so section 3 is down, so you have only one more section left, section 4, where you're going to listen to a university lecture. Are you ready? All right, it's time for section 4, the last section. So section 4 is always a university lectures where you have to listen to a lecturer. Now it's about marine renewable technology, ocean energies. All right, how many words can you write? Just one word only, okay? And the thing with section 4 is that there's hardly any break in between. It's only like about 5 to 10 seconds, so you've got to pre-read the question number 31 to 40 and get a pretty much of what is likely in those blanks. Before you listen out for it, okay? And also you have to listen out for the outlines here, like introduction, wave energy, tidal energy, advantages, problems, ocean thermal energy, convention, stuff like that as a signpost words or navigations. All right. So now let's have a look at it first before I play the audio. So now here, how many words you can write? You remember no more than one word. Okay, just one word only. So marine renewable renewable energy, ocean energy. Introduction, more energy required because of growth in population and what else is growing, all right? And you listen out for the wave energy, the advantages, the good thing. Waves provide a blank source. So its source is a noun, so it's most likely an adjective here. It's like a good source, reliable source, stuff like that. All right, and they're going to talk about the problems of the wave energy. So waves can move in any what, right? A movement of sand, etc., on the blank of the ocean may be effective. So on the what of the ocean, all right? And after that, the tidal energy. So tides are more blank than waves, so it has to be an adjective. Okay, it's a positive basic adjective because it's more here. All right. And the planned tidal lagoons in Wales, okay, will be created in a blank at a Swansea. So in a blank, where will they be created in? Okay. And number 37, store water is released through something. So through water is let go or released through something. What is that? All right. And they're going to talk about the advantages of that tidal energy. So the tidal energy doesn't depend is not dependent on water, and no blank is required to make it work. No what? Okay, no something. All right, and likely to create a number of something. So most likely a plural noun. And they're going to talk about the problems also. So the problems say, okay, may harm fish and birds, especially by affecting something and building up the silt, some kind of dirts and stuff like that. All right. So let's listen out for it. And don't forget, there will be very short breaks, very short break in between. And don't forget, there's only one word you can write. All right. So let me turn off my microphone and play the audio. Are you ready?
You will hear part of a lecture on renewable energy that uses the power of the sea. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
Producing enough energy to meet our needs has become a serious problem. Demand is rising rapidly because of the world's increasing population and expanding industry. Burning fossil fuels like gas, coal and oil seriously damages the environment, and they'll eventually run out. For a number of years now, scientists have been working out how we can derive energy from renewable sources, such as the sun and wind, without causing pollution. Today, I'll outline marine renewable energy, also called ocean energy, which harnesses the movement of the oceans. Marine renewable energy can be divided into three main categories: wave energy, tidal energy, and ocean thermal energy conversion. And I'll say a few words about each one. First, wave energy. Numerous devices have been invented to harvest wave energy, with names such as Wave Dragon, the Penguin, and Mighty Whale. And research is going on to try and come up with a really efficient method. This form of energy has plenty of potential, as the source is constant, and there's no danger of waves coming to a standstill. Electricity can be generated using onshore systems, using a reservoir, or offshore systems. But the problem with ocean waves is that they're erratic, with the wind making them travel in every direction. This adds to the difficulty of creating efficient technology, Ideally, all the waves would travel smoothly and regularly along the same straight line. Another drawback is that sand and other sediment on the ocean floor might be stopped from flowing normally, which can lead to environmental problems. The second category of marine energy that I'll mention is tidal energy. One major advantage of using the tide rather than waves as a source of energy is that it's predictable. We know the exact times of high and low tides for years to come. For tidal energy to be effective, the difference between high and low tides needs to be at least 5 meters. And this occurs naturally in only about 40 places on Earth. But the right conditions can be created by constructing a tidal lagoon, an area of seawater separated from the sea. One current plan is to create a tidal lagoon on the coast of Wales. This will be an area of water within a bay at Swansea, sheltered by a U-shaped breakwater, or dam, built out from the coast. The breakwater will contain 16 hydro turbines, and as the tide rises, water rushes through the breakwater, activating the turbines, which turn a generator to produce electricity. Then, for 3 hours as the tide goes out, the water is held back within the breakwater, increasing the difference in water level until it's several meters higher within the lagoon than in the open sea. Then, in order to release the stored water, gates in the breakwater are opened. It pours powerfully out of the lagoon, driving the turbines in the breakwater in the opposite direction and again generating thousands of megawatts of electricity. As there are 2 high tides a day, this lagoon scheme would generate electricity 4 times a day, every day, for a total of around 14 hours in every 24, and enough electricity for over 150,000 homes. This system has quite a lot in its favour. Unlike solar and wind energy, it doesn't depend on the weather. The turbines are operated without the need for fuel, so it doesn't create any greenhouse gas emissions, and very little maintenance is needed. It's estimated that electricity generated in this way will be relatively cheap, and that manufacturing the components would create more than 2,000 jobs, a big boost to the local economy. On the other hand, there are fears that lagoons might harm both fish and birds, for example by disturbing migration patterns and causing a build-up of silt, affecting local ecosystems. There are other forms of tidal energy, but I'll go on to the third category of marine energy, ocean thermal energy conversion. This depends on there being a big difference in temperature between surface water and the water a couple of kilometers below the surface, and this occurs in tropical coastal areas. The idea is to bring cold water up to the surface using a submerged pipe. The concept dates back to 1881, when...
That is the end of section 4. You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Well, this is the whole test, and you've just done it, and I hope you could do it pretty well. And, after that, a couple minutes, then at the end of the real test, you have 10 minutes to transfer all your answers to the answer sheets. All right. And once the time is up, then probably they will fetch the papers, and your question papers are immediately to be destroyed, and your answer sheets are to be marked. And then you will have to be ready for the reading test. All right. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed it.